Today we have a very, very, very special guest, Gigi.
That's me.
So Gigi is from Canada, and he does comedy in Japan. We did a video together actually about our unique journeys with language and culture. So definitely check out the link below in the description. And we talked about anime, K-pop, reverse culture shock, and also how we just started learning languages. So without further ado, I'd love to jump into what we'll be discussing today. Just how talented you are and all that you do. Like, you just do a lot. Acting, comedy, YouTube. But I bet you're like a bundle of just talent. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is JJ, and I'm Cray Cray, and I'm from Canada, as you said, from a small, hip little town called Campbell River on Vancouver Island. I wanted to come to Japan since I was about 6 years old, and when I finally did, I made it. I did my dream, and it opened up more dreams. I wanted to be a mixed martial artist at first and get into MMA. And then I came to a point in my life where I was like, do I really want to crush and destroy my body to the point that I can't go to my actual job for like $300 a fight? And I was like, nah, that's not worth it. So I decided, what can I do with 25 plus years of martial art experience? And then I thought, stuntman. So I became a stuntman first. And then through stunt work, I ended up meeting lots of actors and models, and I got into modeling and acting, and then I started to believe, oh, maybe I can be a comedian in Japan, which I also wanted to do for the longest time. So that inspired me to kind of be like, yeah, there's a chance I can do it. Poof, there it is.
You also did a video about that recently on your YouTube channel, yeah?
Oh, yes, describing to other foreigners how you can be a comedian in Japan, and some stories about comedians that are foreigners in Japan and how they took different routes.
It sounds like for you too, you had like so many different routes, but you were able to like sleep through all of them. So you did modeling, stuntman, acting, comedian. So are those worlds completely separate?
The acting and modeling are kind of together because they kind of lump them together. Acting in Japan is kind of modeling in Japan. They don't really care about your talent, but serious actors like myself and like 10 other foreigners out of the 5,000 there is actually studied acting and tried to be an actor. But there's not a lot of acting roles for foreigners because you get a lot of commercial work, and commercial work pays more than TV and all that. So
Really?
yeah.
So for your acting career in Japan specifically, like you did mostly commercials?
I got a lot of dramas because of my acting skills. So there's two types of dramas in Japan. There are saigen dramas, which are reenactment dramas, kind of like unsolved mystery crime dramas, but they have actors reenacting real events. We call them reenactment. They dub over you in Japanese. There's no acting skills to those, and many foreigners do those. Japanese dramas compared to Western dramas. Western dramas, we have more realistic type acting, and Japanese dramas is very over the top. So it's like, oh, in Japan, you're like, oh, my father died? What? That they're really overemphasize facial expressions to overemphasize the point.
I love that stuff. Like on the flip side, I love the overacting.
I like it too, but it's different, right? So if you have a serious movie, they still overact. Even a Japanese person wouldn't overact in that situation. So how do I take you serious? The fact that people actually cry over Japanese dramas baffles me. But it's not believable. Even an anime has like more realistic facial features and conversations in a serious moment than a Japanese drama. I got a lot of dramas in Japan for acting ability and for being able to adapt to the Japanese way of acting. But you still see many foreigners and really good foreigner actors too. This is like a famous line in Japanese for all foreigners when they're acting. You'll have the director come up and he'll be like, which means can you do it with more expression, more that it? But they study like many foreigners get pissed. And me too. I took acting in university. To be told like overact when you know that you're doing good there. So many foreigners will argue and they'll be like, no, I can't do it more, or they just won't do it. But me, I'm like, whatever, that's their acting style.
Interesting, because for me, I'm on the opposite side, and I actually don't really know what to do in the acting situations where it's not that over the top. So I'm having to learn much more on the acting side of that serious and kind of more Western style version of acting, whereas naturally kind of who I am works much better like thrives much better with the overacting kind of response, because in real life as well, I have much more of an overreaction, or more passionate and much more emotion. But like you said, like your acting career and then there's being a stuntsman. So how different are those? Because you said acting and modeling kind of like go together. But then for being a stuntsman, like that's a whole different package, yeah?
A stuntman, yeah.
So
I trained wire training, I trained fight choreography and stuff like that. But there was this small little stunt class in Tokyo, and I decided to move to Tokyo. Martial arts and stunt work is very different. So when you punch in real life, it's very compact. You're keeping your elbows in. When you punch in movies, you want it up. You want big motion for that camera, right? You want that big punch. Real life, it's like this. But movie, boom, it just looks more powerful, more motion for the camera. It's not as easy as I thought. Many actors do their own stunts nowadays, but before, not many stuntmen did acting. I've done main actor in a film, and I've done stunt guy in a film. Never had both the opportunity.
but that's so cool. Now, what about modeling world?
Modeling, well, I'm not 190 centimeters tall, so I don't get the most modeling jobs as other people, but I did do big modeling for like Shiseido, which is like the biggest cosmetic company in Japan. So I mean, once in a while I get good modeling jobs, but they want that tall look more. So I don't do a lot of modeling, and I turn down a lot of modeling too because it's not what I want to be.
So I made lots of model friends when I was studying abroad in China. So yeah, just very tall. But they also talked about the schedule. Like the schedule is ridiculous sometimes. Like just how long shoots will be.
8 hours and that.
Yeah, like I can see like some people being able to do modeling and then acting and then even stunts, but then to turn it all the way over to comedy.
So that's a
That's a
Japanese
whole
world.
different
It's
world.
not a foreigner world here. I did like Japanese. I wrote my own stuff. I found my own partner. I joined a Japanese agency. No foreigner has done before me, joining a Japanese and foreign agency. I think I'm the first one to do that. And I did that more for money because when you join a Japanese agency, they take 90% of all of your pay, which is kind of crap. In Japan, whether you're a musician or a comedian, you pay to perform, which is very weird. So if you're in the West, even if you suck at stand-up, or even if you suck as an artist, the bar will pay you because you bring customers.
Yeah.
Japan, I've had shows where I got like 80 people, and then at the end of the night, it was such a success, and da 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 da. And the bartender or the owner of the place comes up and he goes, "Yeah, so that'll be $40 for the night." Huh? Like, I got 80 people, I made you all this money with drink money and all this thing, and you're gonna charge me? And my buddy was a rapper in Japan, so he made actually good music. He rapped and he went to all these places, and every time they had to charge him. So he was like, "Screw it, I don't want to do it anymore." In Japan.
That's crazy.
So Japanese do that too, and they spend their salaries and they spend their money, and then their families get mad at them because they're like, "What do you do with your life?" They go in and they work their part-time job for $8 an hour, and then they have to spend half of that to perform a week too. So they never make any money. They go poor, and they miss their job chances in Japan, and they miss that. Their family get mad at them, and yeah, the comedy world is hard.
Being like a foreigner, right? Like you're doing everything in Japanese. You also like are doing it the Japanese way, and like which is like really hard, like you were just describing. But then for being a foreigner in that, what would be some of the positives of being kind of the only foreigner in the mix?
You stand out, you have a bigger impact, and you have more tools that you can use, right? So I'm Canadian, I can do material on being Canadian. Japanese can't do that. But then you also risk in Japan being what they call it ippatsuge, which is a one-hit wonder. And that's if you make something funny, they want to hear it, and they want to hear it again, and they want to hear it again. And the next thing you know, you're not being able to produce any more material because you're just running the same loop around. Atsugiri Jason, and that's what happened. He would say, "Why Japanese people?" And now that's all he does.
I remember seeing him on a TV show when I was in Japan, and all of the kids gathered around him and they're like, say the thing, say the thing. And you could just see his eyes roll. Like, it just definitely seems really, like, weary on you. I've also seen, like, Japanese ikatsuge, like the, like, just over and over and over again.
He's so done right now. The way I did comedy and the way I entered my agency and the way I did everything, I was careful of that. When you become a comedian, you know it's a hard road and you know it's going to be a poor road too. And you do it because you love it. And that's all. You don't do it for money. I wouldn't even care at all if I made any money doing this, as long as I could make something nice and memorable. A legacy, so to speak.
That's so beautiful. Now with your YouTube as well, right? You're really introducing this kind of like unique content and also introducing Japanese comedy. Tell me a little bit about that.
I didn't see any YouTuber doing that. I find for Japanese comedy, subtitles are key. Japanese comedy is slowly growing in the West, but mostly Gaki no Tsukai. A couple others like Mechaike are kind of getting popular. Some Japanese comedy will just go viral on YouTube, like the lotion stare one I think I saw. Had like something like 130 million or something. There's a bunch of Japanese comedians running up the stairs, but it's all like lotion, so they just keep falling down. But that was just a segment of one TV show, and just a small part of how great Japanese comedy is. So I realized that I need to sub this so that more foreigners can understand it, and that way Japanese comedy could kind of grow in the West, I feel. But at the same time, I gotta do my comedy too, so I don't know what's gonna happen.
Totally check it out. The link will be below. You've got like so many different things that you can do with comedy. So being able to put subtitles on Japanese comedy, I think is like really key for opening up this whole world that goes past just the physical comedy or just Japanglish comedy.
Did you say Japanglish?
Japanglish, yep.
It's Japanglish, I think.
My bad.
There's
my
no
bad.
P, Japanglish.
Do you have a lot of difficulty with learning the language specific to Japanese comedy? Because as we talked in our last video that's available on your channel, like we talked about how it's majority in Osaka ben or in like dialects, yeah?
My manzai partner was from Hyogo in Kansai, and I was originally from Osaka, so we both speak Osaka ben or Kansai ben. His is a little different than mine, I noticed. And then he's like, no, it's the same. He's Japanese, and he's like, no, it's the same. And I would ask other Japanese people from Osaka, and they're like, yeah, no, Osaka's different, don't worry, you're right. And it was a little bit difficult, so he helped me more with mistakes I made in Kansai ben, but we wanted to keep it Kansai like that.
You talked in the last video about how that's also kind of the language of comedy.
Yeah, for the most part. Like when foreigners came to Japan, like all the famous actors like Leonardo DiCaprio and blah, 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 they would come on these Japanese TV shows that are famous. And yeah, sometimes I believe they had a translator, but a lot of the time, especially in Japanese comedy, when you start a conversation, you don't want to stop, translate, talk, stop, translate.
Yeah.
You want to keep the flow going as it's funny. Especially if it's funny, you don't want to stop. You want to run with that joke. You want to run with that gag. So that's why you see like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these famous people on Japanese TV, and it's just like, what, huh? And then Japanese people are just laughing and pointing, and they're like, are you making fun of me or what? Especially one other famous TV show that's really popular with people overseas is Hey 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 Music Champ by Downtown, a music TV show, and they interview famous artists. So all of the famous artists that come to Japan, Michael Jackson, all the famous artists went on that TV show. And it was really awkward when foreigners came on because Downtown don't speak English. And they are from Osaka, and they do have that, like, we got to keep talking. And that's another kind of funny thing about manzai, too, is you realize that everyone is always talking fast. There are some pauses and there are some other comedic techniques we use, but you only have like 2 minutes to 5 minutes to do a bit. And the famous comedy tournament is 2 minutes for the first 3 rounds, and then 4, and then 5. So you need your whole thing in 5 minutes at least. A lot of people watch comedy and they'll be like, oh man, Japanese talk really fast. So it's like, no, we try to get our story in the time. And I think that's even brushed on me a bit too, because when I talk English now, I talk really fast.
It's a skill though. Like you have to develop that. And Japanese also linguistically, it's so much more flowing, like because of the way that the words like work together. But then that also allows for you to just be able to like through your sentences. Definitely really hard for foreigners that are learning Japanese because they just like gotten through like 私は外国人です and then you go to Japanese comedy and they have no idea what's happening.
And that's why I don't think many foreigners are into Japanese comedy right now. Even subtitling it for me too.
For your YouTube channel, doing like amazing things. And I think it's going to be revolutionary. Totally be sure to check out JJ's amazing channel. This is so much fun. Like, you're so talented. For anybody that has any questions for JJ, definitely let us know in the comments below. なんだっけ? またね.
Ha ha ha, you're trying to take mine.
Yeah, no, I'm doing it with you.